What's up, folks? Okay, this is part 9 of Dog Talk. Several of you have asked me questions about, I think, a series of 5 videos a while back on training the train retrieve or the force fetch, whatever you want to call it, okay? So a lot of you had questions about why the hand with the glove in the dog's mouth. All right, let me touch on that. First of all, when I made those videos a while back, I did it because so many people were asking me. My dogs retrieve real well. They fetch real well. And when I say fetch, guys, people say, yeah, my dog fetches. I don't mean chasing a ball and bringing a ball back to you. I mean where a dog, on command will go pick up anything you ask him to. There's a big difference having a dog pick up something that they're interested in and something that you want them to pick up that they're not interested in, okay? So when I made that series, it's because people had asked me, and I couldn't believe how much shit I caught over those videos. I was really shocked. And the reason being was, I think I titled it How to Train a Forced Fetch to Any Dog or something like that. And so I had a bunch of people, mostly old timers, people who've been training a long time, tell me that's not a true forced fetch. That was bullshit. I need to change the title. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's not a force fetch, And people get really caught up on terminology. And the reason they were pissed really blew my mind. So basically, it wasn't a true force fetch, as a lot of people complain, because there were no aversives involved. So basically, people were pissed that I was training my dogs how to retrieve, and I wasn't causing any pain to the dog. Think about that. Please think about that. So a lot of the old timers believed that you needed to do an ear pinch. Okay, for people who don't understand that, is what they do is they set the dog up for the retrieve and they pinch their ear real hard, and then they shove the object in the dog's mouth, and when the dog puts it in its mouth, they release the pressure from the ear. Okay? Painful, right? Or they do a toe pinch where they tie a little string around a dog's toe, and the same thing. They pull up, they cause pain, they stuff something in a dog's mouth, and they release the pain when the dog fetches, okay? That's how they used to do things back in the day. So there were a lot of people really pissed because I wasn't causing any harm, or they train the retrieve with an e-collar. They start, pressure from the e-collar, and they go up to pretty high levels, and then when the dog takes something in its mouth, the pain stops. So they were really upset that I did videos on training a force fetch, but it wasn't really a force fetch. So I said, okay. I said, well, let me explain to you why. And for folks who have questions, you can go watch the videos. They're on YouTube. I said, this is a force fetch to me. Although there's no pain involved, there's no aversives, I put my hand inside a glove, a work glove. I put the dog up on a chair. I hold the dog by the collar, or I make sure he doesn't go anywhere. And then I physically open the dog's mouth, and I put my hand with the glove in the dog's mouth. Okay? And they're going to fight it. They don't like it. A dog doesn't want you sticking your hand with a glove in his mouth. So in reality, I am forcing my hand in his mouth. Even though it doesn't hurt, they don't like it. And then as soon as the dog settles, I say yes, I remove my hand, and I reward with food. That's the very first step, okay? And I think I showed it in 5 different videos. And people were like, that's never gonna work, that's stupid, that's not a true force. I heard everything. And then I would say to some of these people, well, show me you teaching the force fetch or train retrieve, whatever. And I only got a couple of videos, but they were hysterical. They were awful. Like, their dogs looked like shit. They were in slow motion. They didn't, it was horrible. And I was like, really? That's what you think is good dog training? So they told me it would never work. It would never work. So by the 3rd or 4th video, whatever it was, or maybe the last video, the 5th video, of course, my dog was doing beautifully. Taking off fast, retrieving whatever I had, bringing it to my front, and then their statements changed to, well, it works for you. Think about that. No, it works for everyone. Because, see, there's many different ways to train a train retrieve or a force fetch, whatever, many different ways, like there is to train everything. So when I'm teaching a complicated behavior, and it is a complicated behavior, I never use one method. Just like when I'm trying to fix a complicated bad behavior, I never do one thing. I do multiple things. I like to hit it from all angles, okay? Training a dog's like training the human body. You want to do a lot of different things for your best success. It's the same thing. Same thing with dog training. So if I'm teaching something, I use many different things. The reason I prefer that method of training the train retrieve with the glove, with the hand in the mouth, is because I like the dog to know the difference between just putting something in its mouth, biting, and fetch. So when I tell a dog to fetch, that means I want you to use a soft mouth. I don't want you damaging what you're picking up. And see, when your hand is in the dog's mouth with the glove, you can teach them the right amount of pressure. So when the dog starts biting down too hard, you can adjust him and tell him, no, that's not what you like. And you wait till he holds it gently, and then you reward that. So you can literally teach the dog what kind of pressure to use in his mouth. And that's why I like the glove method more than anything else. And again, I didn't make this up. I was just taught it by someone that was far superior to me, okay? So one of my favorite things I used to do when I used to do demonstrations with my dogs is I would have Bruno at these trade shows, Bruno, my old Rottweiler, and I would do a demonstration. I would have someone in the audience hold an egg, a raw egg, okay? And then I would have the bite sleeve on, and I would have Bruno hit the bite sleeve. And I would do bite work with him, and Bruno bit hard. You know, he's a Rottweiler. He bit very hard. You know, he would really hurt me through the sleeve when he bit. He bit hard, like all Rottweilers do when they're trained to bite. And then I would send him off the bite, and I would send him to the person in the audience with the egg and tell him to fetch. And the look on people's face, especially the person holding the egg, used to be hysterical. Their eyes would get real big, and they'd nearly shit their pants because Bruno would run over there full speed, but then he would stop, and he would gently take the raw egg and bring it to me without breaking it. And it was everyone's favorite thing that I would do with it. They loved it. They couldn't believe how gentle that dog would be right after biting like a savage. But the reason he was able to do that, guys, is because he understood that fetch means pick that up gently. And that's why I like the glove in the mouth. Okay? That's it. And another thing, folks, when you are teaching something complicated, even if, let's say it's not complicated, but the dog is struggling, you're struggling, take a break. Step back and take a whole week off without ever going back to working on that. Take 2 weeks off. I did a video about when I was teaching Luca the handstand. I took a whole month off. A whole month. And what you're going to see is, I can guarantee you, when you go back to it, the dog is going to be much further along than he was when you stopped. All the time. It works all the time. And I've experimented with this as long as a month. Remember, I talked about teaching him the handstand? He was struggling. So I took a whole month off of doing nothing. And the first time I took him out to do it, I didn't even get to tell him to do it. I got near the house, the wall on the side of my house, and he went up to a perfect handstand. Blew my mind. So a whole month really let it soak into that dog, and he was so much further along when we went back to it. And the same thing with the force fetch or train retrieve. When I was teaching Bruno, he was struggling a little bit. Where a lot of dogs struggle with that exercise is getting him to hold it is fairly easy. A lot of dogs struggle is when you start moving. When you start walking and moving forward, a lot of them want to spit it out. And I was struggling really hard with Bruno. He didn't want to move with anything in his mouth. And so I got frustrated, and I took 2 weeks off. Nothing. I did nothing for 2 weeks. And when we came back, it's like he had been doing that exercise all his life. He just went right to it and did it correctly. Okay, so for the folks asking about the force fetch or the train retrieve, that's why I use my hand with the glove. For one, it doesn't cause pain to the dog. I don't teach anything through pain. You know, if that's your thing, that's your thing. It's not my thing. They don't like it. So in my books, I am forcing them to do something. I'm forcing them to take my hand with the glove in his mouth. But I like to teach the mouth pressure. I like to teach the dog how hard I want them. Biting and fetching, two different things to me. When I tell the dog to bite, I want you to bite hard. When I tell him to fetch, use your mouth softly, okay? And these dogs, they're clever enough to understand the difference, as long as we're clever enough to show them the difference. You understand what I'm saying? All right, peace.